My name's Dave Parkinson, and I've been working as an electrical contractor for many years, based out of Brisbane. And I was lucky enough to become one of the contractors for some of the major oil companies in Australia. And one in particular was Shell. So over the last 30, 40 years, all the major oil companies have been upgrading their facilities, eliminating some of the ones that weren't profitable, merging with all sorts of other companies as well, and we ended up with a couple of projects that required upgrading fuel depots in Queensland, Northern Territory and New South Wales. So we got to travel around a fair bit. A lot of the work was quoted. Sometimes when you're out there they'd ring up and say, where are you, or can you go to the Julia Creek after you finished here? So we all had to give them sort of estimates and quotes and make sure that their paperwork was all lined up. So once you're out there, that's a lot of the expense already covered. So we were pretty lucky. Had some good guys working for me. And over the years we built some new depots for the oil companies. We also demolished dozens of them. And when I say demolished, there had to be nothing left, just bare earth. The fences were gone, the high fences, all the pipe work was donated to the local showgrounds for fence posts. Building materials went to the school or somebody like that, the scouts. And the electrics that we could salvage came back to Brisbane. But nobody wanted the Shell signs or the memorabilia at that stage. So we would carefully wrap up the signs, tins, bring them home. So that was the start of the collection. It fills up 3 sheds in my backyard. It's been bigger, it's gone smaller. But over the years, all the memorabilia has increased in value. We've swapped and traded. The major oils have even contacted me again after many years saying, do you have such and such? And I'll say no, but I know where it went to. So they were good to work for. And we covered, I'd have to say, hundreds of thousands of kilometres over the last 35, 40 years. I missed out on so many birthdays, wedding anniversaries, mates' birthdays. So I tried to make up for that when I was out there on my own at Birdsville or wherever. So you met some great blokes along the way. Collecting the signs was easy. We'd wrap them up, put them in plastic bags or cardboard boxes and send them back to Brisbane. And over the years you end up with these old street signs, road signs. This one here should be on my side. It's got the Middleton pub, Hamilton, which is west of Middleton, on the way to Boulia. It's not there anymore. There's a monument. The whole town's gone. And that's what's happening, or what has happened, is the history and the people have gone from these places. So I've done my little bit to try and resurrect bits and pieces from out there. I enjoy it. You can sit around a campfire, tell yarns. Then you find someone else who's been somewhere you went, and it becomes quite a long night. All the way to sunrise sometimes. But on these trips away, you've got to spend a bit of time in some of these towns to do the little jobs, and whether it's Nanango or Charters Towers or somewhere like that, you're in town for a week, maybe 2 weeks. So you get to know the local fuel agent, the local publican, gets to know you pretty well. And some of these towns you book into the pub, and we're working in Longreach, and we got the phone call and said, you've got to go to Windora. And I said, mate, I haven't been home for about 5 weeks. Can I? No, just finish that job in Windora and you'll be right. We'd been through there a few times going out to Birdsville, and we packed up. Longreach was a good place. The pub we stayed in, you'd order your breakfast and lunch, And they say, oh, we'll deliver lunch to you later on. So later on, down the road's coming the front end loader for the local Shire Council, because the bloke that runs the pub got a part-time job on a front end loader, and he's bounced beep, 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 and as he comes in off the highway, throws your brown paper bag over the fence, just as well I did cricket at school. You catch your lunch bag, oh, he's gone, I got my sandwiches. So we ended up, we left Longreach, ended up at Winton, Windora. Yeah, Winton's up there too, but there's another story about Winton. But at Windora, we booked into the pub, and there were 3 locals. Darcy, he's got his picture in the wall in the pub, tar pot, and a beautiful Aboriginal gentleman, Willie Harris. Well, they're all gone now. But we got on well with these old blokes. They had stories, and none of it was bullshit. It was all real Australian hard luck stories, or mustering cattle. Darcy said to me, "Did you know I'm a mason?" And I said, "Struth, it'd be a long way to get to a hall out here, wouldn't it?" He said, "No, a mason." I said, "Yeah. Where's the nearest Masonic lodge?" He said, No. Bricks, block. I make sandstone blocks for churches. And how long since you've built a church, Darcy? I won't tell him what he said, but he should go and confess a lot of sins, I think, that bloke. But anyway, we got to meet them all. An old tar pot was just a little gentleman stockman, and they'd sit there and they'd drink a pony. Now, you get your beer in different sized glasses. Well, the pony was the smallest one that you could buy. They probably don't have them anymore. And it wasn't very big, but they'd sit, and it never went flat, because by the time they'd finished it, the half hour was up, so they'd want to. So we shouted the 3 of these guys. Whenever we went over for lunch, you bought them a few beers. They'd wander off in the afternoon, have a snooze, they'd be back at dinner time. And Willie Harris was the old stockman. Darcy was the mason, and Tarpot was another stockman, well known in the area out there. His family is out that way, and Darcy and Tarpot and Willie Harris, the Aboriginal man, would stay in that little shack on the corner of the main street as you came into Windora. If Willie was in town, he'd stay with his mates, and these 2 old guys lived in the shack. We went out there to do a contract, and I'd gone into town and bought myself a brand new hat. I thought it was pretty flash, you know, bit of platted leather. Looked good, except I looked like a new chum with this brand new hat. That's what they said. "Who'd you steal the hat from, Dave?" I said, "Why?" He said, "You didn't go and buy a hat like that, did you?" I said, "Yeah." They kept every time you go to the bar, they'd look at your hat. So I used to leave it out in the truck. I didn't want to wear it in anymore. The locals were embarrassing me. Anyway, the job went on for a few weeks. We had the explosion, and we wrecked the general store. The dynamite blew out of the hole, and we took out all the phone lines and wrecked the council excavator. There's a whole story there, but it'll take forever. But we fixed everything up, and like I said, to this day, the tank's not buried properly. But when we were packing up to leave the pub, we'd been there for about a month. Tarpot come up to me, and he said, "We're going to miss you. I think you need a decent hat." He took mine off and gave me this one. And he's worn that with this lovely belt. Said it was one of his girlfriends, and it used to fit around her waist. That's how important the hat was to him. But he didn't want a bloke with a city slicker's hat. And I've had this hat for 20-something years now. More than 20 years. Anyway, Tarpot's gone now. His little shack is now fenced off. It's got a story about it. And he's buried up the back there in Windora. So, got to make a trip out there and say good day to him. Miss him. Yeah, Dino around the corner is the fellow with the hot rods who knew I had petrol pumps and sheds full of stuff. That'd be better. Yeah, sheds full of shit. It's everywhere. So he came around, he asked if some friends of his could come down and take a few photographs and have a look, and I said, yeah, that's fine. So he said one of them's an artist. She does paintings and all sorts of things, takes pictures. So I said, yeah, rock up. So the lady turned up, and I hadn't done much with, this was full at that stage, and she talked about pictures and photographs and things. So I sat here pretty much with what I'm wearing now. Oh, it's been washed a few times since then, and sat here and probably a bit like that, and she took pictures and wandered around. I said, oh, that's great, and she left. So I put a few things away out of the weather, and then one night, sometime later, she rang up and said, can I come around, I'll show you what I've painted. And I thought, oh yeah. She said, we'll meet you down the back of the shed. Oh, righto. So she arrived with a ute, and I'm waiting for her to get out with this painting under her arm, and she said, oh no, give us a hand. We undid ropes on the back, and this is a flat top utility, and then her and her partner lift this painting out, and it's 1.5 metres by 2.5 metres long. It's enormous. It's enormous, and it's me surrounded by all this stuff. And I had no idea it was going to be that big. I had no idea of the detail. I mean, the detail down to the blades of grass in the foreground. The detail was amazing. I was stunned at it, you know. And we walked around for ages looking at it. Then she had to pack it up and take it away. I said, oh, it's too good, you know. Well, since then, she's followed her dreams and put it in competitions and things, and I hope she's doing well with it. But it's a fantastic painting of a bloke with these sheds full of stuff, and yeah, it was just great. I was so taken away by it. It's just magic.